Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
So welcome to Schoen Home. This is our second episode and we're doing steakhouse favorites. And I have so many. I don't know about you. But I'm a total steak and potato girl my whole life. I know it's not great to eat so much red meat or any meat in general these days. It's so kind of controversial. But once in a while, when you do it, you got to do it right. And you love steak too.
Love steak.
Right?
Love steak.
So we have a 2-pound Angus beef bone-in cowboy steak. Okay? It's so gorgeous. It's got really beautiful marbling in it. It's got the bone in, which, adds a lot of flavor. And I'm just going to tie this up with some string to keep it even. And I have a cast iron pan heating, and my oven's on at 425. So, Parks, while I'm tying this up, and I'm going to dust it with a very heavy coating of salt and pepper, tell me, what's your favorite steak, number one?
Filet mignon has always been my favorite.
Yes.
Because I didn't have that till later
Yep.
on. Every now and then as a treat, we would have steak at home.
Right.
But my mother, who had never known how to cook before she got married, we really did her best. She did a good job for us. She put food on the table, but the steaks were always really thin,
Okay.
a quarter of an inch to half an inch thick, and pretty gray.
Yep.
And
Very well done, right?
And totally well done, and we still were thrilled. My dad loved steaks. The next step was when we would have them going at the country club, which
Okay.
was a slightly enhanced version of it. It's still really well done.
Okay.
And really thin and kind of gray.
And do you know what cut it was? Was it like a sirloin or
not a
New
clue.
York?
Not
Okay.
a clue.
But it wasn't probably filet mignon.
It wasn't filet mignon.
Okay.
Then, when I was 18, I worked on my first film, and I stayed on location.
What was the first film?
It was a separate piece, and
Okay.
I stayed at the Exeter Inn, which is where they shot in Exeter, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I come back from shooting, and they had a really nice dining room there.
Right.
And I would order a steak, which is a filet mignon, with sliced tomatoes,
Okay.
and sometimes French fries, really great French fries, and it was so great.
The best.
It was the best.
It's
It
the
was
best.
That's when I really went crazy with steaks. And then later, as I moved into New York, and one of those great steakhouses, those clubby dark wood booths, and
Yeah.
great steaks and waiters, with the same color outfits going around. It was just the best. And
Did you have like a good steakhouse in your town, other than like the country club that you
no,
went to?
it's just the country clubs. We didn't really have many restaurants in my town. So
Okay. And you were in Rye,
I was in Rock, outside of New York.
New York.
But I would have
Okay.
it. I would have it in the city. And then I was sort of on the hunt for the great American steak when I met you. And
Yeah.
we've been on that journey now for almost a decade.
Yes. Well, we found it many, many times.
Well, what I want to add, as people are watching you make this steak,
Yeah.
is as many times as we've gone and hunted great steaks and gone to great steakhouses, with Chris or all these other great classic steakhouses,
Yep.
almost always
No
it
one makes a
doesn't-
better steak than
it
me.
doesn't live up to what you do with a steak. So people really need to listen.
This is-
Lisa's the bomb on steaks.
Yeah,
You
steak-
really need to watch what she's doing, because she will show you how to make a steak that no one has ever had a steak that
Oh,
good.
come on. Well, you know what? There's an art to it, and it's not easy. And working in a restaurant, and if you're on the grill and you're making steaks or even hamburgers, to be able to get the temperature that you want right without having to cut into it,
Yeah, that's what
which
I
you
used
can't
to
do in a restaurant. You can't give someone a hamburger that has a slice in it,
Like 5 cuts.
or a bite out of the steak. It's an art, and especially a steak this thick. This is about like 1.5 inches thick, right? So, we're going to share this, obviously. It's 2 pounds. Maybe it's a 1/4 pound of that bone. But just for 1 second, I really generously salted and peppered the steak. And I know it looks like a lot, but look at how thick it is. And if I had my way, but I wanted to show you exactly how I do this, I would have salt and peppered this probably like 2 hours ago and left it in my fridge just to really get that in there, okay? Um, so, you know, what's interesting is I grew up in Great Neck, Long Island, and it was a really great town to grow up in. And we had a lot of restaurants, and we had so many steakhouses between my town and like 3 or 4 towns around us. So, you know, and the most famous, let's see how hot this is. The most famous steakhouse, one of the most famous steakhouses in the world, is called Peter Luger. And there's one under, I think it's under the Brooklyn Bridge or the Williamsburg Bridge. I'm sorry, I forget. But we had one in Great Neck, and that was like for our family, a super special occasion restaurant. It was very expensive, and it was that traditional, you know, white glove, tuxedo kind of, you know, waiters with the napkin over them, and the steaks were aged and they were very buttery. And honestly, I loved going there, but it wasn't my favorite steakhouse in our neighborhood per se. There were 2 that I really, really loved. Okay, I'm putting a generous amount of olive oil in here, and I'm also going to put 1 little tablespoon of butter. And I'm going to put this steak right down on top of that butter, okay? And then I'm going to take my press and put it down there, okay?
So you had several great steakhouses.
We probably had, I would, if I had to guess, we probably had 10 steakhouses within like a 4-mile radius from our house that were like very high end and delicious. And one of them, which was one of my favorites, and my stepbrother worked there, was called Bryan and Cooper. And my parents went there so often that they had a booth with a plaque of their name on it, you know, and other people had plaques with their names on it too, but that was their booth.
Yeah.
So if, you know, they made a reservation and they knew that they were coming in, they would get that booth. So that was really cool. But there was another place, it's not as well known as Bryan and Cooper. It was in Port Washington. I'm sure it's not there anymore. It was called the Clubhouse. And what was so cool about it was a very clubby kind of atmosphere, and it had a piano player, and you could eat around the piano, and you know, it was like divorcees like sitting at the piano, and you know, some dude with like white hair singing Valore, you know, but it really wasn't cheesy at the time. It was just kind of that vibe, Frank Sinatra-ish, like, you know, there was a lot of kind of like wise guys in there and families. But what the cool part about it that I loved was they had this huge open fire pit. I mean, like 6-foot fire pit in the restaurant with a brick wall above it, and all the steaks went on that grill. And it was to die. And, you know, we would always get whatever kind of steak you wanted on that grill. I usually got like a sirloin back then, and then steak fries. So my contribution tonight is the steak fries that I love, and we're doing your tomatoes. And then my brother and I used to make a steak sauce. Maybe put that thing on too. We used to make a homemade steak sauce at the table while we were sitting there, and I'm going to show you how to do that too. Okay, so it's getting really smoky in here. So what I did was I pre-cooked 2 russet potatoes at 450 degrees until they're like 2/3 of the way done, so they're still a little bit firm. And I'm just going to cut them into wedges, and I let them cool so I can handle them. And you see how they're kind of staying together there? Oh, that's good, Parks. Okay. And we're going to make steak fries out of these. Try and keep these together. So I'm going to just put a little bit of olive oil on this pan so the bottom doesn't stick.
I love these.
You love these?
I love steak fries.
Well, these are really thick, kind of decadent ones.
Was it Jack Dempsey's that was in New York at Grand Central?
I don't know that restaurant. I mean, in the city, oh my God, there's so many. I mean, oh, there's so many. I mean, my favorite steakhouse in New York City was BLT Prime. It was in Gramercy Park, which is where I lived for a very long time. And it was kind of like my corner bar. And we're going to do an episode on that because there's something on that menu that I love so much. It's not a steak that I want to do to tribute them, you know? I think that's going to be enough,
Yeah,
okay?
that's good.
Put that to the side on that plate for me, please. Okay, so I cut those potatoes, so put those here. Now let's take a look at this steak. Oh, can you put those on that plate and leave that plate there?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see what this looks like. Beautiful crust. Look at that. So, you know, color equals flavor. And that's,
So people can see. See
yeah. I mean, that is just gorgeous. Okay, so we're gonna cook this on both sides and we're gonna finish it in the oven because we don't want it to get burnt on the outside. So we'll do both sides and then we'll kind of do the other side, you know, the perimeter.
the I have it. Tipping it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you do that.
Okay.
Okay, so we have our steak fries, right? And we're gonna put a little bit, thank you, Parks, of oil over these because we want them to get nice and crispy and the skin is on there. And you know, you could do this recipe, what we're doing now, and turn these into like potato skins.
Here we've got this overhead.
Yeah, turn them
Over
into
here.
like potato skins and put cheese on them and salsa and whatever. So I just put some kosher salt and I'm putting some ground black pepper. And you can season them with anything you like. You could put cumin, coriander, cayenne, you know, smoked paprika, curry powder, whatever you like. But this is what we like. And I have a teaspoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of paprika. And I like paprika on my potatoes because it gives them really nice color and nice flavor. Okay, so that's that. Let me put a little more oil over the top. And Parks, do you throw those in the oven?
So good.
And just put them to one side of the oven.
On that grate.
On the top, yeah, perfect, perfect. Okay, so we're cooking this steak over here. That looks great. Then what else? The other thing we have is I love grilled onions. So we have one red onion that I sliced into like 1/2-inch pieces right here. And when this steak comes out of this pan, we're actually going to put the onions in there. And the onions are going to pick up that flavor of the steak and the butter and the salt and the pepper. Okay, so let's see how this looks on this side. That looks great. Okay, so now this is my tip to you. What I like to do is hold this down. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. And we're going to brown all sides. Do you think you could do that for me?
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually hold it by this if you want. It's not even hot. And you're just going to let it sit like...
You just want those edges.
Yeah, but you got to stay on the edges for like a couple minutes. And I'm going to just start putting in these onions around you, okay? Because we want to get that, kind of, get that fat off the side. Can you move that to the...
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Here, I'll move these like here so you can kind of stay in frame there.
You want me to cross over you?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and be careful, there's a pot over there because it's hot. So the other thing that we want to do is Parker loves fresh tomatoes with the steak. Whenever I make a steak for him, I always have tomatoes. So, you know, it's still kind of tomato season here. So I have 2 heirloom tomatoes. Just cutting off that end. We have some yellow. And would it be okay if I don't keep them in slices but make more of like a salad with them? Or do you like them in slices? Okay, but then you have to cut them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to probably put some Worcestershire, some A1 a little bit on there, some pepper, and then I'll, with a bite of steak, I'll then have I might cut them once or twice.
Okay, you paying attention? Let's get that side right there.
Well, I can't.
Here. So look at this.
The bone's gonna work.
See that? I'm going up against the side.
That's a good trick.
Okay, so grab for me that, the one underneath it would be,
On the grate.
yeah. Okay. So this is looking great. So I am going to put this, I have it on a little rack so it doesn't steam itself. And Parks, you can throw that in the oven for me,
Okay,
please.
going in.
Okay. Now I'm going to move these onions just closer so you guys can see them. You know, and if you don't like onions, don't make the onions. Or you could put mushrooms in here, you could put asparagus, whatever makes you happy. Okay, so we have our tomatoes.
Steak, tomatoes.
Oh, and we can still use this on top. And I'm not going to season those onions because there's so much salt and pepper in this pan from the steak that kind of fell off, right?
Yeah.
So we don't need it. Okay, so we have beautiful heirloom tomatoes.
Where is she right there? Sure. Steak is good. You
What?
got the deal on it? Steak is fine.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got those. And then what I like to do for the tomatoes, just because you know me, I like to layer my flavors, is I like to put just a little bit of oil on here and a little Maldon sea salt.
Why Malden versus
Because it's a finishing salt, not a cooking salt, and it's crunchy and it just elevates the flavor, and it's a finishing salt.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to tear up a little bit of fresh basil leaves, and we'll put that in there. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we got that. That looks great. And we'll just move that around a little bit, and we'll let that sit. Okay? So we're going to put this to the side.
Put that over there.
You can put it right over there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, let me just check these onions. I think they need a little more time. So when we would go to this place, the Clubhouse, or even any other steakhouse, I don't know why, they didn't really have like steak sauce back then, you know, the way we do now, where there's like 20 versions on the shelf in the supermarket, or even steakhouses now tend to have their own brand, right?
Yeah.
So somehow, and I think my mom had something to do with this, we would always create our own little puddle on our plate of steak sauce. So this was our kind of loose recipe. So this is a half a cup of ketchup, right? Just in a bowl. And this is 4 tablespoons of A1 sauce. You know, because there's always ketchup on the table. There's always A1 on the table, right? You know, because they'd be like, do you want A1 or Lee and Perrins or ketchup? And we would, our family would say all of it. And then this is 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, which is Lee and Perrins. And then 1 teaspoon of horseradish. And we would always ask the bar for horseradish because, you know, they would have it for Bloody Mary, right? So, and then we just mix that around. And, you know, we would just individually do this on our own plates and dip our steaks in there. And then also dip our French fries. If we had a baked potato, we'd put it on the baked potato, and it was so good. So that's our steak sauce. Super excited. You want to taste it, Park?
Yeah, I'd love to taste it.
I don't think I've ever made this for you before.
No. No.
Okay, let me just get that mixed. So, you know, growing up for me, going to a steakhouse was my favorite because I was such a picky eater, but I love steak and potatoes. And so I always knew I was going to be happy. Good?
A1 and Leesburg and ketchup.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Okay, so let me just move this over for a minute. And And let's turn these guys. Beautiful. Nice caramelization. Okay, I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And to this, I want to add a 1/4 cup of beef stock.
Which stuff?
Beef. Beef.
We got pan and so on. We got it sizzling.
I know. So what that's going to do is it's going to deglaze the pan. And if you don't have beef stock, you can add chicken stock. If you don't have chicken stock, you can add water.
Red wine.
You could add red wine would be amazing. You could add beer would be phenomenal. Okay, so we're just going to let those kind of simmer in there for a minute. And I'm going to add a 2nd tablespoon of butter. Okay?
Wow.
Okay, so we're going to let that simmer. Our steak is cooking. It's going to take about 20 minutes in the oven. Then we're going to let it rest for 10. So we'll be back in a minute and we'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Yeah, yeah. I love this. I love this. I love this.
I love this too. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, okay, so we let it cook for about 20 minutes because we want it medium rare. And, you know, you can use a instant read thermometer. That's the best way to tell if your steak is the temperature that you want. So I would do that. This was about 20 minutes, but the most important thing is to let it rest because you want the meat to relax once it's been in the oven or a pan, and all those juices inside to distribute evenly through the meat so that you get a nice pink or darker or red or whatever your temperature is. But you want the juices to stay in the meat and not spill out onto the cutting board. And that's really, really key. That's really more like restaurant style cooking. And that's what you learn in culinary school. It takes practice. And sometimes it's hard to wait, but it's really important. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is just cut off this bone.
Wow, that's good.
And just put that over there.
If you use a thermometer, what are the temperatures that you're looking for?
Well, I go to about 140.
For what?
For medium rare.
Okay.
And then there's what they call like carryover heat, right? So, you know, I go probably a little bit like more like 137, 138, because it's going to cook once it comes out. And what I do is I take it off of the hot pan that it was on and put it on something else cool so it doesn't continue to cook and raise the temperature. Okay, and then we're going to cut this across the grain.
And how do you know the grain?
Well, I see the grain is going this way.
Okay, you can see it.
I can see it.
Okay.
Okay. So now this may be a little more rare than you would like, Parker, but here's the thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Let me seriously. I have those onions, which is going to become our sauce.
Yeah.
And once we pour that over the meat, it's going to cook it a little bit more. So those are all the things that you want to kind of take into consideration, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, here's my theory. You can always cook it more. But if you overcook it, you can't go back.
Can't go back.
Okay?
Yeah.
And, you know, meat is so expensive. You know, you want to try and make it work out as well as possible. Okay, so we've got our meat like that. That looks so gorgeous. Let's actually grab that for me and let me...
Just to go? Okay.
Yeah, take that away. Don't throw it away. Let's just leave it right there for a minute.
Right here on this side.
Okay, so we've got... We'll put our little bone right here. We've got our tomatoes. This is kind of wobbly. Anyway, here's our steak fries that look amazing. Here, we'll put them on this side. They're crispy and golden and crunchy.
And salty.
And salty. Oh my God. Here, let's do this. Like that. Here, we're gonna go like this. And I'm gonna turn this around this way.
Okay, you done with this?
I'm done with that. And it might be a little hot. Is that hot?
Yeah, it's a little hot.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
You don't have hands of steel like me.
No.
Okay, and then, so we've got our tomatoes there, and we've got our
Special
dipping sauce right there. Okay, and then I've got these warm onions that we're gonna put over the top. These gorgeous caramelized onions.
Sweet.
Very sweet.
Wow. Wow.
We're gonna clean up a little bit, pour a glass of wine, and we're gonna taste. Okay? We'll be right back.
Oh my God.
We'll be right back.
So good. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be so good. All right, Parks, are you ready?
I am so excited.
This is really exciting. Well, you pour the wine. You can tell us here. Let me give you my glass to make it easier.
Okay.
And
This is a Cote de Rhone, which is a wine that I discovered a long time ago that I really liked. And it's from the southeast corner of France,
the Rhone Valley.
almost up against Italy, and it's full of grapes from Roman times.
So let's taste it before we taste the meal, so we can really get. And we had it open for a while, so it was breathing. You want to just. And these glasses are beautiful. I don't want to spill. This is a little big pour, but.
I've had these glasses for almost 50 years.
50 years?
I have 6. I don't know. I have a feeling I had 8 when I started.
And probably broke a couple.
So, yeah, I'm sure.
They're so delicate.
Oh, it's so good.
So it's nice. It's a lighter red, or maybe not so light, but more like a medium-bodied red, and it has, to me, like, let me taste it again. It kind of has that. I know this sounds weird, like coffee cigarette.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Flavor
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
In a good way,
Yeah.
you know. And the soil, you know, the terroir.
It's
Yeah.
natural. It tastes like nature to me. You know, it doesn't taste like something that's so pumped up with sugars and things that goes bam.
Yeah.
It's more subtle. I love it.
It's really nice
Yeah.
with it will be
With
really
me.
nice with this. So what I like to do is I always like to put a little bit of this Malden sea salt, this flaky salt from France, just a little bit over the top. We probably don't need too much, but over those tomatoes too. And I don't know about you, but whenever I have a meal like this, I always have to start with the potato.
Really? Why?
Because I love potatoes so much. So I'm going to just take a bite first of my potato and dip it in this steak sauce.
I tend to eat one food at a time also, only because
Oh
I
my
get so
God.
excited by eating something that then I forget about everything else in the plate. But I'm going to try this.
And we each have our little sauce thing, so you can double dip.
Yay. It's so good. It's so good.
Okay.
Oh my God. Okay, and that's just the potato.
I know. I'm going to take a bite of steak with a little bit of onion. I'm not going to add the sauce yet. Let's see how this is.
My kids got into their teens. We used to grill all the time. And I'd be out there making steaks for everybody, and I'd be cutting into the steak to see if it was done. And the steak would be in about 10 pieces before I took it off the grill,
Right.
because I never could tell if it was cooked enough.
Yeah.
And then my son,
I think that's what most people do.
that's what most people do? I couldn't figure it out. My son somehow knew. I realized very quickly he cooked a better steak than I did on the grill, and he took over doing the steaks, and we had the best meals, the best dinners.
Well, True's a really good griller, and he's really good at barbecue.
Really good.
And he takes a lot of pride in his steaks.
Mhm.
One time we went
Yeah.
over to visit True, his son, and his wife, and like a whole group of friends, and it was bring your own steak, raw, and everyone brought like, you know, ribeyes and filet mignon and sirloins and tomahawks, and everyone grilled their own steak, and then I made like Caesar salad, and someone else made like some kind of potatoes, and we all just sat around It was so fun. That was such a great idea for a party.
It was so fun.
Unless you're vegan, then it's not so good.
Well, so I tasted the steak while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, but this is killer.
It's killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, when you first took it off, I thought maybe it was going to be underdone, but it's not.
Mm-mm. It's so juicy. My mouth is watering as I'm eating it.
Uh-huh. These beautiful knives were a gift from my father when I graduated from school. And they're from Brooks Brothers, of all places. They're from a company in England that makes them with this, I guess it's deer antler bone or something. These are from the 70s.
They're beautiful.
And he gave me a set of 6 for my graduation. And so
From high school or college?
Well, I was afraid you were going to ask me that.
Oh.
Because
Sorry.
because I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was college or high school. I think it was college. I think it was college. But I remember the time when he gave them to me. It was kind of such a simple, understated gift that meant the world, because they're so beautiful, and I'm sure they weren't too expensive, but it was just a thoughtful, steak knife.
You were happy with it?
Steak knife, I'm so happy with it.
I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous, and I'm not saying this as a diss to your dad in any way, because these are beautiful, and of course, as a chef, I'm so happy we have these in the house. But when I graduated high school,
Yeah,
my brother Michael,
yeah,
for my graduation present,
yeah.
he gave me a Mont Blanc pen.
That's a
Because
good.
he was like Mr. Corporate, and I was like, are you
Oh, I think that's a great gift.
effing kidding me? A pen? I mean, it's a beautiful pen. Respect to Mont Blanc.
No, but you can have that pen for your whole life.
But that's,
These knives.
I don't know where that pen is
Here I
now.
am.
That was like, but I'm a girl. Like, I wasn't like, going into accounting or something. I didn't want a Mont Blanc pen. That's like what he would want.
I can see why you wanted something else, but I also
Yeah.
see why he gave it to you, because that's something you could have your whole life. Whatever you
I
get.
know.
And that's how I felt about this. And so here I am now, and I've used these my whole life. And I pull them out at Thanksgiving, I pull them out at Christmas, I pull them out. And how cool. I love that I think of him every time I use them.
And you know what? I just had like a moment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michael, my brother. I love you so much. But I definitely wanted something more like
Like what? What was it you wanted?
like Sergio Tacchini jeans or something. I didn't want a pen.
You
But you know what? To have that pen now and like hold it in my
do you
hand.
have it?
I don't think so.
Oh.
But holding these in your hand must be sweet
It's
to think
fantastic.
of.
It's so great.
Okay,
I love that memory.
So let's toast to Michael and your dad.
And my dad. To Michael.
And to gifts you can hold in your hand forever.
And pass on.
And pass on. And then we're going to pass out from all this meat.
This is really killer.
Oh.
This is killer. Lisa, as a gift for steaks, it's unbelievable. We've hunted steaks. We hunt steaks. We hunt restaurants with steaks. And try this. You're gonna love it.
And Mom, he's going to get his hair cut soon, I promise. It's his
This is
COVID cut.
My COVID not cut. And even I am beginning to go, okay, this is bad. And so, but I just haven't figured out how to do it and still be safe for her,
Yeah.
for me, for my kids. So, and it's sort of like, so vanity of
Who
vanity.
cares?
Well, that's where I am. But enough people are going, it's time. And I'm going,
Yeah.
well,
The surprising thing, your mom, who's 95, was like, oh, your hair looks good.
yeah, she liked my curls. She said, you have curls. And she's usually the one saying, oh, you have to get a haircut.
And you have to shave your beard. Oh, my.
You must shave your beard. I mean, you just can't be seen that way. But this look she likes. Go figure. I love her.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thankless meal. Fantastic.
We'll see you soon.
Best steak ever.
Oh,
Good job.
thanks. Thanks, Parks.